Kalypto is a simple, fast-paced card game that is easy to learn but difficult to master. In this game, you will command an army of shadows, wield awesome powers, and eliminate your opponents through battle and strategy. When you open a deck of Kalypto, you'll notice there are colored cards and black and white cards. The colored cards are called powers. These are one-time use cards that give you an instant advantage. The black and white cards are called shadows. Shadows are wild animals that fight by your side. The higher the number, the stronger the shadow. There is also one unique shadow called the X card. This card fights by your side like a shadow, but has an added ability which makes it quite powerful. The goal of Kalypto is to eliminate your opponents by forcing them to meet one of the 5 lose conditions. The last man standing is declared the winner. We will go over all the lose conditions in more detail in a moment, but for now just remember, if you have 0 cards in your hand, or 0 shadows in your army, you lose the game. The majority of the game revolves around making sure that you always have enough cards in your hand and army so that other players can't eliminate you. Begin by shuffling the deck and dealing 5 cards to each player. Then, place the deck in the middle and take a look at your cards. At this stage of the game, players prepare for the coming battle by playing as many shadows as they want from their hand face down in front of them. This is their army. There is no restriction on the number of shadows you can play at this time. Just remember, if you have 0 cards in your hand, or 0 shadows in your army, you lose the game. It is also important to note that you may never look at any face down shadows, so make sure you remember what you put down before continuing. The player with the smallest army goes first, and turns continue clockwise. If 2 players are tied for the smallest army, then they can do rock paper scissors to decide who goes first. On your turn, you must perform 2 of the following actions: summon, draw, play a power card, attack, or pass. You can summon by placing a shadow from your hand face down into your army. You can draw cards from the deck equal to half the number of shadows in your army, rounded down. Draw at least 1 card. You can play a power card by revealing it from your hand, using its effect, and then placing it in the discard pile. You can fight by choosing one of your shadows and one of your opponent's shadows. The final action, pass, allows you to do nothing. You cannot do the same action twice in one turn, and you are not allowed to attack on your first turn. When attacking, select one of your shadows and one of your opponent's shadows. If either one is face down, flip it face up. The shadow with the higher number wins and stays face up, and the shadow with the lower number is discarded. If they are the same, they are both discarded. If any shadow fights the X card, they are both discarded. Keep in mind that you can't attack on the first turn. Seize allows you to steal one enemy's shadow and add it to your army. If it's face down, flip it face up. Rise allows you to draw 2 cards, or force an opponent to draw 2 cards. If any player has more than 7 cards in their hand, they lose the game. This means it's possible to eliminate someone using the Rise card. Devour allows you to discard 1 card from an opponent's hand or army. Extort allows you to steal a card from an opponent's hand and add it to your own. If a player steals the X using Seize or Extort, they lose the game. If a player tries to draw, but accidentally draws more than the exact number of cards left in the deck, they lose the game. You can confuse other players by placing the deck on top of the discard pile to make it appear larger. This is called burying the pit. You can only do this on your turn, and it does not count as an action. Burying the pit makes it more likely that one of the players will overdraw and lose. If the deck runs out, continue playing and do not reshuffle. From here on, you can no longer draw cards because you'll lose. At this point, the effect of Rise changes. When there are no cards left in the deck, playing Rise inverts the power of all the shadows, making 2 the strongest and 10 the weakest. Continue playing until only 1 player is left in the game. This player is declared the winner. If the last 2 players are eliminated in the same turn, it's a draw. Now that we've covered all the rules, here is a recap of the 5 ways you can eliminate your opponents in Kalypto. If a player has 0 cards in their army, they lose the game. If a player has 0 cards in their hand, they lose the game. If a player has more than 7 cards in their hand, they lose the game. If a player tries to draw more than the exact number of cards left in the deck, they lose the game. Finally, if a player steals the X card using seize or extort, they lose the game. When a player loses, place all of their cards in the discard pile and then bury the pit. Now that you know how to play, feel free to get creative. Take some cards out, mix 2 decks together, play with 10 extorts if you want. Make your own version of Kalypto to play with your friends. Just keep in mind, in Kalypto, only the strongest survive.